Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the March 8th, 2017 meeting of the Portland Development Commission. And please call the roll.
Commissioner Cruz?
Here.
Commissioner Edlin?
Here.
Commissioner Moreland Capuya?
Present.
Commissioner Myers?
Here.
Chair Kelly?
Here.
Thank you.
Commissioner reports. Commissioner Cruz, would you?
Sure. Well, I didn't do a lot of things this month with my PDC hat on, but I did attend several events, the Campaign for Equal Justice Luncheon, the annual ACLU Liberty Dinner, the Catholic Charities annual dinner, and then a number of neighborhood and other meetings.
Met a number of times with folks like Mara Memorial and Ascent on wealth generation for the disadvantaged.
Commissioner Myers?
Attended the Black Parent Initiative Circle of Growth Luncheon, the all hand raised event, and today I attended the Multnomah County dedication of the Multnomah County Elections Building to the Dunaway and Lovejoy building, elections building, for the two pioneering women that got the right to vote. It's all organized.
Thank you. Commissioner Moreland Capuya.
Nothing at this time.
So I attended the same events as Commissioner Myers, the Black Parent Initiative and the All Hands Raised event. Kimberly Branham, your report.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Chair Kelly, Commissioners. Great to be here, and we've had a busy month, so quite a lot to report. I had a chance in early February to speak with the Gateway Area Business Association and talk to some really engaged partners about the work that we have going on there, so that was a great opportunity. Also on that day, spoke at PDC's Small Business Technical Assistance Provider Workshop. You'll hear more about that later in our board briefing. Would like to thank and recognize both Catherine Kronyak and Morgan Masterman for putting on and inviting. There were almost 95 people who were there to learn about the resources that are available to support small businesses and growing entrepreneurs. I attended the Mercari ribbon cutting event with Mayor Wheeler on February 13th. They're a Japanese resale app. They're sort of the eBay of Japan, but they have opened up a second U.S. office in Portland, and it was great to really recognize all of the long-term relationships between Japan and the city of Portland that have helped foster this and helped us be the clear choice for the company. So we're thrilled to have them here and the jobs that come with that. I also attended the Emerging Leaders Internship Company kickoff. So we had nearly 100 business leaders who were here to talk about opportunities for first generation, college goers and others to have opportunities in some of the best businesses in our city. PDC presented with the assistance of Design and Culture Lab the Tech Plus Inclusion, a community conversation event on February 21st. The event was designed to create partnerships that ultimately lead to hiring and career advancement of women and people of color in Portland's tech industry. So I'd like to thank Jared and Joy Davis for their work on this initiative. I also attended the All Hands Raised event in the Black Parent Initiative Circle of Growth, both really important partners in supporting and preparing future leaders for our businesses and community. I also had a chance to meet with approximately 50 representatives and supporters of Vose workers' rights who came to PDC and expressed their to share a letter with us that requested PDC's to continue to work with Vose on the development of a facility for day laborers on the PDC-owned site in the Central East Side Urban Renewal Area. I think we'll have a chance to hear from supporters in the public testimony, but we had a chance on behalf of the board and staff to reiterate PDC's commitment to and support for this effort. PDC's provided no-cost lease and committed about $35,000 over the last 9 years to Vose for technical assistance, operating support, and site improvements. And so we have committed as a next step to have staff meet frequently with Vose once every other week to move forward the letter of intent in a way that provides VOS the certainty that they desire while also balancing PDC's need to be wise steward of public funds, and public resources. So I believe part of the reason that the meeting was productive is because of the work of key staff, Myra and Damien and Lisa and others, as well as Jonathan, who was a great aide at the welcome desk and made sure that everybody felt safe and comfortable. Also on March 6th, PDC's Jared Weiner spoke at the open house event for our new Old Town neighbor, Movil, who is a growing business and really at the kind of the head of innovation within transportation technology. So in the month ahead, we look forward to attending the Northwest Youth Careers Fair Expo breakfast, and I'll be a guest speaker at the Equitable Economic Development Fellowship webinar, where I was invited to speak about how PDC has worked and is working to implement equitable development strategies. Also, we'll be speaking as part of a panel discussion at the Think and Drink event on March 15th regarding the future of urban development in Portland. So I'm joining Greg Goodman and Anjali Halova on the panel. People should go to the Alberta Rose Theater if they're interested in coming and participating in what is said not to be a TED Talk, not to be a panel. So it's really an open conversation about the future. And so I'm looking forward to doing that. PDC is proud to be receiving a Daily Journal of Commerce award as Newsmaker for the year, both for the acquisition of the post office site as well as the remaking of the agency and the leadership team. So looking forward to that on March 16th. And then finally, the North-Northeast Community Development Initiative Action Plan Forum is coming up on March 23rd from 5 to 8 p.m. at the New Song Community Center. There's more of it, details available at pdc.us, but this will be a great chance for people to learn about how to connect to the North-Northeast Community Development Initiative Plan and the resources that are available there. The last thing is that I'm really pleased to introduce Amy Edwards, who is our new Asset and Investment Manager here at PDC. She joins the Development and Investment Department. She brings a depth and breadth of experience to PDC's investment, long-term business plan, and portfolio management efforts with over 10 years of experience in capital sourcing, financial analysis, strategic consulting, and working with businesses from sole proprietorships to Fortune 100 corporations. She's worked for a number of financial institutions, including as Vice President in the Real Estate Finance Department of LBBW New York. Prior to that, she worked as an investment officer with Upper Manhattan Empowerment Zone, supporting businesses and cultural entities in Harlem and other neighborhoods of Upper Manhattan. Since coming to Portland in 2011, Amy's worked as a consultant to the Portland Housing Bureau, where she's helped advise senior management through the transition of staff from the Portland Development Commission to the Portland Housing Bureau, analyzing and repositioning the loan portfolio, and working closely with other city bureaus to implement the legislative changes required for proper stewardship of the portfolio. So Amy has 2 master's degrees from Columbia University, one in international affairs with a concentration on economic and political development, and another in business administration. And final fact is that she got her career started as a Peace Corps volunteer in Mali. So breadth of experience, and we're really happy and lucky to have her. Welcome, Amy.
Welcome, Amy. So we have some minutes to approve.
So moved.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second to approve the minutes of the February 8th, 2017 meeting. No changes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Okay, we have some citizens who would like to testify during our public comment period. We have lots of citizens who would like to comment during our public comment period. I'm going to take you 3 minutes at a time. We have a lot of business to get done today, so everybody has a right to 3 minutes. But please, if you can refrain from repetitive testimony, and we'll listen as we best can. So, I am going to call up Francisca Aguirre, I think it says. Romeo, I'm not sure, S-O-S-N, Sosan. And Rafael Ortiz, sorry about that. Everybody understand their, what? Are you Rafael? You can introduce yourselves and identify who you're representing, which I think you're all representing Bose.
Yes. My name is Francisco Aguirre. Today representing BOSS and Day Labor Committee. I'm the president of the Day Labor Committee at MLK Worker Center.
Mi nombre es Rosario Cárdenas.
My name is Rosario Cárdenas.
Soy jornalero del Martin Luther King World Center
I'm a day laborer from the Martin Luther King Worker Center.
y hoy ocupo una posición en el comité de jornaleros.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Rafael Ortiz, and I'm a member of the Day Laborers Committee.
Would like to go first.
We would like to thank the opportunity to the 3-minute speech today. We do want to talk the importance of having a long-term lease at the property for MLK Worker Center. Today we are requesting to PDC the possibility of find a fast way to get an agreement, and I think Paul is passing that letter, an agreement to have a long-term lease to build a better structure at the Worker Center located in Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. That is a key for us to succeed as day laborers, that we don't have a permanent job. BOSS has been providing that opportunity for us for many years, and he keep doing it. And PDC now have the opportunity to help us to achieve that goal for us.
Sí. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Rosario Cárdenas, soy un jornalero y llegué a Portland desde Salt Lake City para buscar un mejor nivel de vida. Llevo participando, colaborando con vos 5 años.
My name is Rosario Cárdenas. I'm a day laborer from Salt Lake City who came to Portland looking for a better life. I have been participating with VOS Workers' Rights Educational Project for 5 years.
En el Centro de Trabajadores he tenido la oportunidad de conocer muchos voluntarios, gente maravillosa, estudiantes de universidades locales, abogados y otros profesionistas.
At the Martin Luther King Workers Center, I have the chance to meet great volunteers, students from local universities, lawyers, and other professionals.
Durante todo este tiempo he aprendido el inglés hasta el 80% y también he participado en los talleres de arte. Este año vamos a hacer murales, a crear murales y voy a ayudar a localizar los lugares. Si ustedes saben de un lugar, por favor, déjenmelo saber.
Over the years, I have taken English classes, improving my skills in 80%, and as well I have participated in the art workshops. I'm very excited to participate in the art project for this year. We are going to create murals, and I will help to locate good places for these murals. If you know of a good place, please let me know.
He tenido capacitación profesional de seguridad y de habilidades en el trabajo. Mi interés de hacer un excelente trabajo para beneficio de mis empleadores y la comunidad.
I have taken safety and job skills trainings. My interest is to do an excellent job for the benefit of my employees and for my community.
Mis ingresos sirven para mantener a mi mamá Yolanda y a mis hermanos, Adrián, que tiene esquizofrenia, mi hermano Everardo, que está en sillas de rueda. Quiero agradecer a ustedes, a vos y al Centro de Jornaleros, porque es más que un hogar para mí. Es mi hogar permanente, es mi familia.
My salary is to support my mother, Yolanda, and my 2 brothers, Adrián, who has schizophrenia, and Everardo, who is in a wheelchair. I want to say thank you Thanks to BOSS and thanks to the Martin Luther King Worker Center, because it is more than a place for me. It is my permanent home, my family.
Thank you.
Okay, this is my testimony. Well, my name is Rafael again. And well, I arrived in Portland in 2014 from Southern California looking for a better life. While I was on the streets in downtown Portland, not knowing what to do with little money on my pockets, I was lucky to meet this person whose name is Jesus Sanchez. He passed away last year in October. I asked him where I could find work, and he took me to the Martin Luther King Jr.'s Worker Center. And on my first day there, there were a big welcome for me because they were having a workshop, and I was invited to participate in that workshop. So they were showing how to install sheetrock, and now, 2 years later, I'm not an expert, but I'm a very, very skillful on that trade. And so many of my present employers call me to replace damaged sheetrocks in bathrooms and kitchens to meet the codes or whatever. And so I have learned many skills from my friends at the Worker Center, and they have learned from me too. We share knowledge, and we have an opportunity to learn new skills in workshops offered by BOSS. And I'm so thankful with BOSS because I can provide financially for my 4 kids and the kids of my ex-wives too sometimes. I am so proud that I could save money last year to buy a used car for my oldest daughter, who now is attending the University of Utah. At the Worker Center, I have the opportunities to develop leadership skills through art and sports. For example, I participated in the soccer practice last summer and in the BOSS indoor soccer team this winter, which is good. I am very excited because BOSS has given me the opportunity to create a piñatas workshop because I know how to manufacture piñatas. I am very happy to share this knowledge on how to make creative piñatas with other day laborers. This is a great opportunity to raise funds also for BOSS and for the Building the Dream project. That's my.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, if we can have Jamie Partridge and Peter Parks and Rosario Cardenas. That would be the next 3.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm Jamie Partridge. I'm here representing the Portland Jobs with Justice Coalition, which is a coalition of over 100 organizations, labor unions, community organizations, faith-based organizations, student organizations for workers' rights. The VOS Workers' Rights Project and the Martin Luther King Worker Center have played a central role in providing a safe, secure, organized space. It's established over decades in a struggle involving the local East Side Industrial Council, the police, but has been able to provide a pathway to stability and productive lives, and has played a central role in making our city work. So Jobs with Justice has been supportive of VOS and the Workers Center since the beginning, and we're in full support of the center's request for a long-term lease from PDC and commit our solidarity to them in the struggle going forward. I just want to say that we're all experiencing insecure times, dangerous times and chaotic times, especially for immigrants. And in that respect, I think it's particularly urgent that we send a message of solidarity and action moving forward in this important, providing us long-term lease for the Workers Center.
Hello, I'm Peter Parks. I'm the Secretary of VOS, and I'm active in the Building the Dream campaign. I would just like to say a few things in addition to what was said yesterday when we met with staff here. We were given a timeline last week that I think left a few things out. For instance, on March 17th, we met with Gustavo Cruz. At that time, he mentioned the possibility of doing a letter of intent for a long-term lease. And then on April 14th of 2016, we met with Tom Kelly, and John Jackley was also at that meeting. Tom Kelly, we said that what we needed really is a long-term lease in order to start our capital campaign so that we can get money to do all the things that we need to see if a building on the property is viable and to move forward. So Tom said, well, and we mentioned what Gustavo had said to us about a possible letter of intent. And Tom turned to John Jackley and he said, and I'm not using your words, but something like to the effect of, can't we do that? And John was a little taken aback, but the two of them agreed that this is something that we could do, and maybe even within a couple weeks. Remember, this was April 14th of 2016, so this is quite a while ago. This is 11 months ago, and we have not seen a letter of intent yet. We need either a letter of intent or the actual long-term lease. That's what we need in order to start to move forward. So I guess 2 points. One is that we don't have the lease, and the second is that communications have been very slow. Also, yesterday, it was alluded that we were meeting every couple of weeks with PDC. That actually has not happened. There have been months when we were not given, when emails and phone calls were not returned. There was a real slow and even lack of communication during that time. I know that's picked up. Things are better. We keep hearing that, PDC supports our mission, supports VOS, but we need a long-term lease. That's what we need. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark?
Reverend Mark Knudsen, Senior Pastor, Augustana Lutheran Church here in Portland. Chair Kelly, I can't think of a better person chairing the PDC right now than you for these kind of projects. Your work with the June Key Delta Center and so many other great projects in the city we're very thankful for. And Executive Director Branham, you're welcome the other day when a number of us marched over the bridge into this chamber, I guess. It was very gracious. Thank you. So I'm here as an ally of the Build the Dream. A little music is always good. As we do that, and as a faith leader in this city, I can say I'm just one of many, many leaders of faith communities in this city, of Muslim and Jewish and Buddhist and Christian, Hindu, and others who would be here at this table if people could today. It's Lent for us, so many of us have services and things this evening. We're here to say we hope that the PDC will make this the highest priority project, just as if you were addressing a convention center hotel right now, or something of that type. The hardest working people in this community are day laborers. I don't think any of us would dispute that. To stand out in the rain, get work for a day, and hopefully get paid and treated fairly is not always the case. And of all groups in our city of Portland that contribute to the welfare and the well-being of the city, day laborers do they're a tremendous gift to the work in this city. Of all people who should have a beautiful place to come into, of warmth, of welcome, of meeting space, of training, the day laborers in this city deserve that. We're living in a time right now where we talk a lot in the city of Portland, and every organization I'm part of, everybody's talking equity, diversity, inclusion as a priority. Portland has declared itself a sanctuary city, so is Multnomah County, but not knowing what that really means as cities and counties. Intentional actions are the way we show what we say we are. And this would be a very important, high priority, intentional action that could speak to the whole community about how interwoven we are and how important the immigrant community is in this city and state. So I encourage you to immediately get that letter of intent and a long-term lease in place. Our congregation supports it, as do many others. And one night in a church auction, just a couple hundred people raised $6,500 for VOS because we all know how important the work is. And I have the feeling that once this long-term lease is in place, the resources will come alongside. But I'd also encourage the PDC not just to do that, but use all the resources you have to bring others to the table to make this dream really a reality, and very soon. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you, and for all the work you all do in the community as well. Do we have anybody else that I missed for the VOS testimony? One more.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
PDC Commissioner, Kimberly. First of all, I want to just mention the letter that the Peter gave it to you. That's
Can you state your name for the record?
Oh, Romeo Sosa. I'm the Executive Director of VOS. So that's the letter that we deliver on Monday. Second, I just want to thank PDC for all that you have done for us since we established in 2008 at the location northeastern Portland. I know that you have give us a place where to be, and also have support us for annual dinner for the jobs fair, and also the budget that will continue operation of the Worker Center. But also, I think hearing from the testimony of the people and our ally, we feel like we are still in the limbo. We don't have no future in the place where we are right now. And the mission of PDC, it's aligned with the mission of what we want, basically. And we would like to ask for all of you to give a priority to build a permanent home for day laborers. Thank you.
Question? How many people a day do you serve?
It's different. It depends on the day and the weather. Between 50 to 120 day laborers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think I've heard from Director Branham that we're going to double down on our efforts to get something together.
Yes, so thank you very much, Chair Kelly, and for everyone who spoke. We have set up a regular meeting now going forward. So on, I think, Thursday afternoons, Myra and Damien will be working with representatives of VOS regularly to finalize the letter of intent. I think we have a desire to have clarity and to move forward with this as quickly as possible. What we stated when we had an opportunity to talk on Monday is that PDC really wants to make sure that we have, that what VOS wants for its future is something that we can support and that we can find common ground. I think there were questions around what PDC's expectations were, and so I think we want to have conversations and really understand what VOS is hoping for and how we can partner on that. So looking forward to hearing how those conversations go, and to reiterate that this is a high priority for us, and we intend to move forward quickly. So thank you.
What would you estimate would be a reasonable date to have a conclusion?
That's a great question. I think it depends on what all is included in the LOI. So before the March 6th meeting, there were some key questions that staff had posed to VOS. And we, I think, are anticipating hearing answers to those questions on Thursday. I think depending on what those answers are, we will have more certainty. If so I think we'll know more at that point.
Thanks. It'd be nice to be updated on that.
I was just going to say,
Yeah.
it would, just to sort of demonstrate our commitment and to make sure that as commissioners, we're hearing about progress. I think this is something that should be reported on every session until it's concluded.
Great. Okay. Happy to do that. Thank you.
Okay, the subject of the Convention Center garage, we have Tony Jordan to testify.
Hello. My name is Tony Jordan. I am speaking on behalf of an organization called Portlanders for Parking Reform. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you, commissioners. I'm here to just give a brief comment on what I think are overly optimistic financial projections for the operating budget of the Convention Center garage. As you heard 2 months ago, I believe, or I believe in December, when you increased the budget of that garage by $6 million, you were told that the estimated operating budget of that garage would be 1.9 million, or the revenues would be $1.9 million per year. In the year prior, we were told that that there were estimates that the garage would generate revenue in excess of paying for the garage of $500,000 a year. By my math, which I think is kind of correct, we're looking at to just pay for the garage between $1.6, $1.7 million a year to pay for the garage. I'm not even sure if that includes valet paying for workforce to do the garage. That comes out to every space in that garage needing to generate about $27 a day, 1/2 of the days per year, 187 days per the year to break even, not even to make any money on the garage. We're talking a garage that's coming online in 2020, which is next to a Max line in an area with over 3,000 publicly owned parking spaces, which come out of lease with the Paul Allen and the Moda Center in, I believe, 2020. So my concern is just whether or not it's realistic to expect for the life of the paying for this garage that we will generate $1.9 million a year in parking fees when we have Uber, Lyft, potentially autonomous vehicles, and all the city's transportation and mode share goals are to extremely, not restrict, but to discourage the use of personal vehicles. I find it hard to believe a business traveler in 2025 or 2030 will fly into PDX, rent a car, drive it themselves down to the convention center, and pay $27 a day to park there, let alone a full garage half the days of the year, when almost none of the parking in the entire region is at capacity more than, I think, 4 or 5, maybe 10 days out of the year. So I'll be back to talk about other garages in the future, but I think that this is something, I understand it's part of the deal, and it's important, and I have mixed feelings about the hotel in itself, but I think that to call this a potential money-making venture is unlikely, and I suspect that in 20 years it will be looked upon as a major mistake for the budget of PDC. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for coming and stating your views. We have a consent agenda item, number 6, Report 17-7, Resolution 7227. Chair would accept a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, the ayes have it, the motion carries. Our next regular agenda item is action item authorizing an operating loan to the Portland Economic Investment Corporation and an update on PDC inclusive entrepreneurship activities. Report 1708, Resolution 7228, and Catherine Kraniak, did I say it right?
Kraniak.
Kraniak.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Kelly, Commissioners, and Executive Director Branham. My name is Catherine Kraniak, and I'm a project manager on the economic development team here at PDC. And today we're going to talk about 3 things. So one is an operating loan to the Portland Economic Investment Corporation, or the PEIC. We'll also give you an update on our inclusive entrepreneurship work and help give that a little more context into how that fits into the Inclusive Startup Fund. And then we'll give you an update on the Inclusive Startup Fund as well, and Nitin Rai will be joining me for that portion of the presentation. So the resolution that you have before you today is actually 2 actions. So the first is regarding the PEIC, and so this is for an operating loan of $55,250 to help pay for fixed operating costs such as business license fees, legal fees, tax preparation, and this will cover those costs for 3 years. The term is for 10 years and an interest rate of 10%. So again, that's for the PEIC, this entity. The second action is regarding the Inclusive Fund itself, managed by Elevate Capital, and this is a request to extend the date for the close of the $3 million fund from March 31st, 2017 to August 30th, 2017. And just as a reminder, when we brought this action to the board last year, we've already dispersed $250,000, and Elevate's made investments. He'll be telling you more about that later, and we have $750,000 remaining. So just a reminder, the Portland Economic Investment Corporation is an independent 501c4 governed by a board of directors made up of economic development entities in the Portland area, and their mission is to invest their returns in economic development in Portland. So we have our fun graphic here to talk about how does this actually happen. And this is really 4 steps, if you can imagine. So the first is that you have a pooling of the public funds. So up at the very top left there, that you have public entities that are able to grant funds to PEIC. So as an example, for the Inclusive Startup Fund, we actually had 3 entities. That was Multnomah County, PDC, and the state of Oregon. They all gave grant funds to the PEIC. So the second step is that the PEIC executes an operating agreement with the fund manager. For the Inclusive Fund, that's Elevate Capital. and they become a limited partner or an LP in the fund. And they're not the only LP, so you also have other private investors who are the LPs. Third step is that the fund manager invests money in the startups themselves. And then the fourth step is that when there's a liquidity event and there's a return back to the fund, then those returns go back to the LP. So in this case, that's PEIC or the other investors. So just to be clear, that money does not return back to the public partners. And I also would just want to make a comment that generally for a fund, it's about a 7 to 10 year horizon that you'll expect returns. And so that's why we made this loan to PEIC, which is our LP that's going to get the return. So we made that a 10-year loan. So that is the beautiful flow chart of the PEIC there. I do want to take a step back and put this in the context of all of our inclusive entrepreneurship work and ground us again. This goes back to objectives 3.1 and 3.2 of our strategic plan, and really how that relates to wealth creation through business development. So I want to talk about the types of entrepreneurs that we work with and the different programs we have to really tailor our programs to those types of entrepreneurs. And some of you may have seen this graph before. We have what we call micro-enterprises, and these tend to be entrepreneurs. A food cart is a great example. Someone who is looking to make a living from their business. They may not necessarily be wanting to grow or be thinking about it, but that's what we generally call a micro-enterprise. We also talk about growing small businesses, so this could be a restaurant, it could be an auto shop. This is a business that we consider a local serving business. And we really want to help those businesses to grow. So for these two types of businesses, we have a program called the Micro Enterprise and Small Business Development Program, one of our longest standing programs managed by my colleague Morgan Masterman. That helps businesses in the first 3 years of their growth. We serve 500 businesses a year through that program, through a network of technical service providers, really helps them get access to capital, help their business to stabilize. But what we found is that there's plenty of businesses that stabilize, but then really need that help to set that growth plan and to kind of set higher goals for themselves. And so we piloted the Increase project last year. That was facilitated by our colleague Tori Campbell and managed by Morgan. And that is sort of for entrepreneurs in a later stage of their journey to help them grow. So we do have someone to testify later today, Jamal Hill from Champions Barbershop, to talk about his experience actually with both of those programs. So to move on, we have another type of entrepreneur we talk about, which is scalable product. And this could be an apparel product from athletic and outdoor cluster. This could be a food product you buy in New Seasons. But this is a type of entrepreneur that needs capital to actually make their product and then grow it and export it, right? So they're going to export outside of Oregon, this product. And the fourth type of entrepreneur is what we call hockey stick growth. So this is high growth. Often this is a technology company, your classic tech startup. They don't need a lot of capital to make their product. They just need the labor for it, and they can grow quite quickly. So for the orange and red lines, those are the type of businesses that tend to attract equity capital. And for those purposes, we have the Inclusive Startup Fund and the PEIC to be able to provide that early stage financing to entrepreneurs. In terms of our programs, we have a program, the Startup PDX Challenge, which is a year-long incubator for diverse founders at the very beginning of their life cycle. And then we also have the Inclusive Startup Fund that helps fund those businesses to grow and expand. So that's to say, oh, sorry. Okay. So that's to say we have a lot of different programs, and this is just to give you a heads up that this year we're looking at this a little bit differently. We still continue to have these programs of providing technical assistance, but we're in a time now where PDC, it's really a good time to start telling our story in a better way. So this is a chance for us to bring all those programs together, think a little more intentionally and critically about how we report outcomes and tell that story. But we also think it's time to think about how do we stretch that dollar further. And so we've decided to outsource 2 of our programs, the Startup Challenge and the Increase Project, to outside partners to run those programs. We think will affect more entrepreneurs and probably they'll do a better job of delivering that service. And we also see this as a chance to kind of bring together an ecosystem that serves all those entrepreneurs and just create a community of practice amongst all these practitioners to think more in terms of inclusion and who they're serving for their programs. So we're currently in the midst of an RFP process. We released a request for interest in January, and on February 9th, we held a workshop for everyone who responded to that request for interest. There were about 70 respondents. And that workshop, we're trying to do things a little differently. We wanted to make this more user-centered focus and how we design the RFP. So we took a good 3 hours, folks were very patient, to get feedback from folks on how we should design the RFP, and got a lot of really great feedback. So we took that feedback, put it into the RFP, which is out right now, due March 22nd, and then we have a selection process to go through and hopefully get contracts underway by July 1st. But this is, we're excited to bring you an update on this at a later time. Obviously, there's a lot here to talk about, and I think we've got a lot of great stories to bring to you.
How many contracts do you anticipate letting?
No, good question. So this is going to be for 3, actually, plus 4 scopes of work. So one piece of feedback we got from this is to carve out a scope of work for a cultural liaison. So these are organizations that work in communities of color and to serve as a mentor into the program. I think at the end of the day, between all 4 of those scopes, we'll probably have between 10 to 15 contractors, right? So this is it's a huge chunk of the community there. So I want to go ahead again. So this is the third topic, is to be able to give you all an update on the Inclusive Startup Fund, and just to kind of go back and just to remind you what this is. So this is a $3 million pre-seed fund. Pre-seed is usually seed is around $200,000 to $1 million when we talk seed money and venture capital. Pre-seed's very early, so these are about $25,000 to $75,000 small investments. This is for companies early on in their growth. So Elevate Capital provides 6 months of very, very intense mentoring. The goal here is 30 companies and an industry diverse portfolio, so a really good range of consumer products, technology companies, and we have some goals around who's actually funding the companies. Elevate's done a good job also of collecting data on who the companies are hiring in terms of demographics, so Nitin can report to you on that. And part of the request today is to extend that deadline for the close of the fund. And so just, I want to reiterate from our perspective as staff and from what I see in the venture capital industry that a pre-seed fund is very unusual. This was a pilot for us. We'd never seen a publicly backed fund like this. And that it's, in any case, it's a very difficult, $3 million is a really small amount, and it's tough to fundraise for, and it's tough to fundraise for a pre-seed fund. So Nitin will share with you, his efforts on that vein, but he also has been able to make some investments in companies and has some great stories there. So with that, if I could turn it over to Nitin, he can tell you about the Inclusive Fund, and then we could answer questions. Would that be good? And then we have some
Then we have some
testimonials.
further testimony from.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Thank you, Commissioners, Chair Kelly and Director Brandon. Do I need to formally introduce myself, or you guys all know me?
I think we all know who you are.
All right, but just as a matter of record, so Elevate Capital actually has 2 funds, the Inclusive Fund, which Catherine just described, and then we have a second fund called the Elevate Capital Fund, which is, think of it as the seed and the early stage fund, which is about $10 million. And from that fund, we invest between $100 and $500 as a first commit, and we can invest up to $1 million. So both these funds are playing hand in hand. In terms of targets, we also target minorities and women from that fund, but it's more regional, so we also look at underserved regions outside of the Portland metro area as well. I'm very pleased to report that we have validated our thesis in a really profound way. Since we closed, we did the first close at the end of March, where we generously got to $50K to invest. I've been able to raise about $750,000 from outside private investors, including one foundation. We have another $200,000 in the pipeline. So I'm at about 2.1 million. So I got another 900 to raise. So it would be great if we could get this extension so we have some time to bring in the additional capital. Though we can close at any time if we want to. I think we have sufficient capital to make investments. what has been amazing is the pipeline. So one of the reasons we had asked for this early money was to show that, what's possible. We have received 350 requests since last year. So we've been overwhelmed. And that's one of the reasons why there was a lag. There's been somewhat of a lag in raising money, despite the fact that it's difficult. We've made 8 investments. We deployed $375,000 in 8 startups. I mean, some of them are right there. There are 2 more here. 25% of the investments were made in African-American women, 15% in Latino, 25% in veterans. So 100% of these companies are diverse. What's most amazing is that these companies have been able to subsequently raise over $6 million in follow-on investments within 6 months. That's within 6 months.
How much money?
Over 6 million. So the leverage was 1 to about 17x. Now, Elevate Capital Fund also had a role to play because as these companies needed more money, we co-invested or additionally invested funds from there. So we deployed about $1 million from that. And that fund leveraged 4x. And and these companies are outperforming. They are way ahead of the curve. And part of the reason is that we're spending a lot of time mentoring them through our mentoring program. They're meeting their fundraising goals. They're meeting their financial objectives. They are outperforming most investments that I've personally made in this period of time. So one of the things that's really important to note is that this group of people and this demographic of entrepreneurs, if you validate them and you give them that early access to capital, they will outperform. And we are hoping that as time progresses, you will see the progress that it will make. And I'm really excited that I took this on. So, and in terms of diversity, 60% of them are women entrepreneurs. They've hired 21 new employees. 54% of their employees are diverse. And this is obviously self-reported data. So you can see where a small amount of money, what difference it can make in a very short period of time. And I've got 4 more companies that I'm looking to invest here in the next few months.
What's the average size of these 30 companies? What's the average employee number of each of these companies? So we're talking about 30 companies. How many people do they employ on average? Because when you throw out 54%, we can be talking 3, we can be talking 2 of 4.
Well, so the range is between 25, anywhere from 3 to 5 employees to up to 25 employees. So it's a wide range.
On average, out of the 30 companies represented on this page here.
Well, I haven't invested in 30. I've only invested in 8.
Okay, out of the 8, what's the N on average?
So it would be about 10 employees.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's
We're throwing out-
total employees are 70.
Okay.
So you divide that by it, it's about roughly 10 employees. Yeah. And they're growing. So as these, now not everybody is raised. There's one company that raised $3 million. One company raised $2 million. Now the other thing that you're going to note is that some of these companies are moving into the capital fund as they are progressing and meeting their goals. So one of the entrepreneurs took $50,000, doubled her revenue, 20% profit. She's got 8 employees. Now she wants to raise another $500,000. We're going to write the entire check, maybe syndicate a little bit with some other capital groups in town. But she's going to double the number of staff with that kind of raise. So there's a continuum of hiring as these companies raise capital, grow revenue. It creates more economic opportunity for other folks in the region, and these are high-paying jobs. These are mostly tech-enabled companies, even though it might be apparel or food or those kinds of companies. There's always a tech bent. So these are high-paying jobs.
Any more questions?
Yeah. So are you coming in to those firms as equity?
They are mostly convertible notes.
Okay.
When they go and do a Series A, we will do an equity. We've also done some debt deals.
Go ahead, please.
And one of the companies, we actually got an up round. So we did from the Inclusive Fund, we did a convertible note, and then they did a Series A. So that converted to equity. And a lot of these deals will convert to equity.
What's your targeted rate of return to your investors?
2 to 5x in 2 to 5 years.
And how many investors do you have that are not foundations or public entities at this point in time?
So in the inclusive fund, we have one foundation at 100K, and Oregon Growth Fund is committed 50K. So everything else about 600,000, roughly 10 investors that are in at 50K.
What's the biggest impediment you have to filling it out, do you think?
People don't like putting money into very early stage pre-seed, and when they hear minorities, they get turned off. They think that it's charity and so on and so forth. And it's one of the reasons why we, wanted to do an early close so people could see a pipeline.
Yeah.
They think it's very high risk, and we're mitigating the risk with Capital Fund. We're mitigating the risk because I have a syndicate of investors that will put money in. We're mitigating the risk because we have a group of mentors that are helping these companies. And my personal track record of my own investments, my IRR, my 6-year IRR is 32%. My cash IRR is 12.5%. So I'm just using my own sort of track record and my own investment thesis, which is to get in early, mentor them. They don't have to be $1 billion market to make it. And put in investment sort of vehicles that help that startup in that stage.
Is there something that we at PDC can do to help fill that out besides write that check?
I'm open to any help. That's my standard spiel right now, is that if PDC cannot, I made that ask. The feedback I've gotten from Jen and some other sources that this kind of fund typically needs more, more money in from public funds rather than private money. What I have shown, which originally it was my thesis, was that give me 1.25, and I leverage that from the capital fund, which I have. And not only have I leveraged it from the capital fund, I've leveraged it from other institutional investors, other angel groups. We touch deals, people want to jump in. So.
And last question, how many times over the life of the fund do you think you'll be able to turn that money? In other words,
we are not going to churn the money. We're going to start, as soon as we start getting exits, we're going to pay it back.
repatriate it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Catherine, before we have our other testimony, do we have any questions for Catherine?
I would just say great work. I'm really, really pleased and impressed with how things are coming along. I know it's been a little struggle to raise this last bit of capital, but I'm sure you'll do it. And just really great job.
We're excited about what you're doing.
Thank you.
Very excited.
Well, we have 3 testimonies, so from 3 programs that I talked about. So we would have Jorge Guzman, who is actually funded, he's in this picture here, by the Inclusive Startup Fund. Yesenia Gallardo, and she was a Startup PDX Challenge participant, as well as Jamal Hale from Champions Barbershop, as I mentioned, from the micro program and from Increase Project.
So if you folks can come up, Jamal and Jorge and Yesenia, come on out. Welcome.
For the record, my name is Jamal Lane. Jamal Hale was a part of the program, but wrong Jamal.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jorge Guzman,
Hi, I'm Yesenia Gallardo.
and I think we are briefly presenting on what our company is and the experience that we've had with Elevate Capital. So we've been referred as the Yelp for the Latino community. It is a technology company that we launched last year in August, and we are currently serving approximately 40 clients, and we are generating revenue, and a lot of it had to do with the Elevate Capital investment that we received.
Hi, my name is Yesenia Gallardo, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Poda Foods. My company started as an edible insect startup, so we were farming crickets out in Molalla, Oregon. It's quite the adventure. And our company has gone through a lot of changes. We're no longer farming insects, but we're still in the edible insect space, and we were one of the lucky recipients of the PDX Challenge, and it was a really formative experience for my company. So when we started the adventure, my business partner and I, it was born out of a graduate school project. And even at the very beginning, when we were figuring out what city to place our company in, we did things like Google the startup community in the city, and we're looking for a place that we thought would be a great place to start a business. And one of the things that caught our eye was actually the PDX Challenge. It was not the only, but certainly a factor in deciding where we would place our company, and one of the reasons we ended up in Portland. We ended up getting into the competition, received enormous help, and I think that one of the greatest assets of the program is that it really is a convener of the startup community of color in Portland. Whatever event is thrown together by the program managers and coordinators is really reflective of the startup community that we have here. It's been an amazing experience to be involved in that community, and we certainly felt like it was a welcome reception, and I think it's just a really great strength that speaks to the assets of the program and the way that the PDC is really living up to its vision. I've also had the chance to talk to other cities to see what programs are out there in other places, and I think that Portland is really doing a wonderful job, and the PDC is leading that challenge. There's a lot of work to be done, but I think that it's been, they're trying their hardest, and I think it's the companies that have come out of it have really been grateful for the support that we've received.
Thank you.
Again, my name is Jamal Lane. I'm the owner of Champions Barbershop and also the owner of Champions Barber Institute. Champions Barber Institute just opened here in January of this year. We are the only barber college in the state of Oregon that's solely dedicated to the craft of barbering. I actually went through the Increase project. I've also worked with PDC in a couple other ways through Champions Barbershop. And Champions early inception, I was able to take part in some of the storefront projects, the signage projects that they offered, which helped me stand out amongst other shops in the area. Brought a lot of attention to us, and I believe it helped us thrive as a business and just set us apart, for the new generation of barbershops in the community. The Increase project was definitely a great one. I was glad that I was able to be a part of that. It introduced me to some other businesses in the city of Portland that were also looking to grow their business. I think with those type of programs available to small businesses, more small businesses would be able to grow. Those type of support systems, I think, are very important. There's a lot of businesses that want to grow, but just don't really have the direction to the certain resources. And I think that was a hub for me to be introduced to a lot of different people in a lot of different areas of business. So I was able to apply a lot of that to my, the newest project, which is the Barber College. And it helped me out a great deal. So I feel like it should be something that should be continually supported. And with that, I feel like any project that we have or that we participate in should offer continued support and not just something that we go through, meet people and keep it pushing, but there should be some continued support for the businesses that participate. And that's what I look forward to, building relationships with the people that I'm introduced to, like you guys here. I'm sitting in front of you now, and hopefully if I was to ever see you on the street, there would be some type of rapport there, and not just, oh yeah, I seen him before and that's it. But with me being in the barber industry, it's all about relationships, and when you're in whatever relationship it is that you are in with people, I keep hearing the word intent being thrown around. So you really have to be intentful about the things that you do. I like that word. So, be intentful about keeping these programs around and available. And as I sit here also, I don't want to be too long-winded, man. I'm looking at all these large numbers. And I think about, the business that I'm in as a barber. We're not really considered a cash cow of any sort, you know what I'm saying? But we're very, and always have been, a very intricate part of the community from back in the Roman days to now. And so I just feel like, the things that we need to grow are nowhere near some of these large numbers that you see. So continued support of micro businesses, I think is very important. That's my spiel, and thank you all for having me here.
Just to add, I thought we were going to introduce ourselves first, but, I've been, first of all, I want to applaud the work that PDC is doing. I've been fortunate enough to be part of the Portland Mercado as a technical assistant advisor to a lot of the businesses that are still actually currently operating as a business at the Portland Mercado. And in doing that work, I did notice that before there was a big gap between those really small businesses and some of the businesses that Elevate Capital is now funding. Now with this new model, it's certainly closing that gap and is really allowing for the opportunity for those businesses to really grow to the next level. And one of the things that Elevate Capital has done pretty well is in being intentional in finding some of those minority entrepreneurs that are looking to develop their startup farther, and how to mentor those entrepreneurs, and again helping them not just with funding but also with a lot of the support and expertise that Elevate Capital has to really support the business growth. So I want to applaud the work that PDC is doing in Elevate Capital.
Commissioners, any questions for these fine people? Thank you very much. We're excited about what you're going to be able to do with your businesses.
Great. Thank you.
So we need to vote on this resolution, I think. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Action item 8, authorizing the purchase option agreement to convey 0.99 acres of real property in the Interstate Corridor Urban Renewal Area to Transition Projects. Jillian Detweiler. Yeah, talk fast, we're behind schedule.
Okay, good afternoon.
I said top that.
Top
Oh.
that, oh, that's difficult, but this is a wonderful opportunity, and I'm happy to be here to share it with you, Chair Kelly and Commissioners. This is a proposal for PDC to enter into an option to purchase agreement with Transition Projects, Inc. The location of the subject site is in the Interstate Urban Renewal Area. The circle in approximately the top part of this map shows the Kenton neighborhood where the site is located. Here's a close-up. The subject property is outlined in blue, and you'll see 2 yellow circles, and those indicate properties that were purchased in a portfolio from the Nelson family. So it included the subject property outlined in blue, a property where Spartec Industries operates. They design and manufacture hydraulic presses there. Salvage Works, which offers reclaimed timber, and Figure Plant, which designs and fabricates all kinds of really interesting things for companies around the region. PDC owns all 4 of these properties. They were purchased as a portfolio. The ones that were developed are now leased to these companies. And we have the vacant site, which is the subject property. So focusing on the subject site, it is almost an acre, but you'll see it's irregularly shaped. There's an unimproved right-of-way ending in a cul-de-sac. PDC does not own the corner, the 2250-2344. That is owned by Ferguson, which is the neighboring property. The frontage of the property on Argyle actually sits below the grade of Argyle. It's hard to see. The Spartec building actually sits about 6 to 8 feet above the subject property. It's sloping, and then where you see the arm coming out, there's a utility easement. At one time, I think this was planned to be a public street. The utility easement remains. Ooh. No, that is where we want to be. So the proposal from Transition Projects. Transition Projects, as you may know, is the county's largest homeless shelter provider, and they're a very engaged partner in addressing Portland's homeless crisis. In their efforts to do so, they've been looking at innovative ways to provide housing, and they've been looking at sites to do that. And sites are hard to find, and publicly owned sites are particularly appealing because of the opportunity to enter into a partnership. Transition Projects identified this PDC-owned site being undeveloped, PDC not having a real plan for it, and started to look at opportunities for developing the site. And they've been looking at this for about a year and are proposing to develop 72 units of affordable housing. And this would be modest permanent housing. It would be a mix of single-room occupancy, rooms with shared bathroom facilities, and studio apartments. And they believe they could deliver these units at very low cost relative to some of the other affordable housing that we see developed, and that it would serve very well the population that they work with. And they plan to deliver it with prefabricated modular construction. And they're working with PDX Mods, a company in North Portland, to develop this prefabricated model, and also with Walsh Construction, who would do the site work and help deliver it. So that is their proposal, and it's one that does address Portland's housing issues. So PDC has been in discussions with TPI about a purchase option agreement. We would enter into an agreement with them for an option for 18 months. They would have 18 months to put together their financing. We would establish the purchase price with an appraisal of the market value of this vacant land. We have had a broker's opinion of value. It was valued at $1.3 million. However, that opinion didn't take into account some of the difficulties of this particular site, and we would expect a full appraisal to address those. During the 18 months that they're seeking financing, TPI will acquire the corner lot that we showed from Ferguson, and so that'll make a much more appealing development opportunity. And under this agreement, they would close within 24 months. So they'd have 2 years to put this together. And along the way, they'd be achieving milestones of acquiring this corner site and getting their financing in place. They will comply with PDC's business and workforce equity requirements, and they would comply with our green building specifications. And I think it's an interesting opportunity to see how those work with modular construction, but we're confident they can do it. So before we move on to ask the board to consider an action on this proposal, I want to make you fully aware of other things that are being proposed for this site. We have a proposal for a temporary use, and this would occur during the approximately 18 months that TPI is doing the work necessary to finance permanent housing. And this temporary use would be what we're calling a tiny house community. And the photo here shows one of the tiny houses, and that's a term that gets applied to lots of different kinds of structures. In this case, the Rebuilding Center, architectural firms in town, PSU School of Architecture came together to try to demonstrate some temporary housing types. And these have actually been built, and they were on display at PNCA, which is where you see this photo. And today they're being stored on PDC property in the Rose Quarter. And in fact, Mayor Wheeler visited these tiny houses yesterday, and you may have seen the Oregonian's coverage of that. The city, the Joint Office on Homeless Services, and Catholic Charities are proposing to locate these already existing tiny houses on the Argyle site. It would be temporary housing, transitional housing for women. That population could change, but that is their proposal, to serve women there. There would be 14 of the tiny houses, and the houses, which don't have restroom facilities, they would be supported by a common kitchen and restroom facilities in some kind of modular trailer building. And this would be a 12-month pilot. We would see how well it's going, how far along TPI is, and that could be extended. So PDC would enter into a use permit with the city, and then the city would have a contract with Catholic Charities, which would help run the community along with the people who are staying there over time. This use permit doesn't require board approval, but we want to make sure you're aware that we're trying to make this site available as quickly as possible to help serve people trying to exit homelessness. So with that, we are asking the board to authorize the terms of an option to purchase agreement to convey 0.99 acres of real property in the interstate urban renewal area to transition projects. I know we have here today George Deffendorf, the Executive Director of Transition Projects. He's not planning to testify, but if you have questions for him, he would be happy to address those. We also have Ben Morrow from the city's Office of Management and Finance. He's been working on the temporary tiny house proposal. And I think, Chair Kelly, you have a testimony card from a representative of the Kenton neighborhood.
Yes, Webley Bowles.
Yes.
So are we going to have George Devendorf up first? Come on up. You-
Here, I'll just get up. I'll just sit to the side here in case.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here. I don't have prepared remarks, but as Jillian suggested, I am more than happy to try to address any questions you may have. This story has grown somewhat more interesting just in the last couple of months. We were looking at this plot of land before it became semi-famous, just at the end of last year, again with the development of the pilot concept for the Pod Village. Just to reiterate what you've already been told, these are separate initiatives. And as best as we can tell, these are separate initiatives with timelines that should not conflict with each other. And we have been assured by the previous mayor's office and the current mayor's office that they will work intently to ensure that both can succeed and that one would not in any way interfere with the other. That's all I'd really like to say, but again, happy to answer any questions you may have.
So has the modular manufacturer done projects of this scale before?
No, this would be larger than that manufacturer has done before, but a very similar kind. In addition, we have canvassed other modular producers, fabricators in the Northwest. There are a number of options available. We feel most comfortable at this point with the fabricator that Jillian mentioned.
So I have just a few thoughts. So I do believe that PDC should be playing a role in reducing homelessness, and I think that being a part of the working solution at the table in these conversations is important. What I am concerned about, though, is something you said about ensuring the success of both of these projects. So right now, to have these tiny modules on the property is really a tempering measure for TPI. So it's until they can purchase it.
So they're completely separate projects, and by that I mean TPI is only involved in the permanent housing, not in the.
I completely understand, but they're separate, but sort of not in terms of the fact that the space that TPI is looking to purchase is the space that we're looking to put the tiny houses on. And those tiny houses are going to be attached to people. So my concern is about human impact, just like your concern is. So as we have a 12-month pilot project where we have people, women and perhaps children living temporarily, and which is also that's a short-term solution to reducing homelessness. And then, of course, TPI's plan is a longer-term solution. So we've got sort of a short-term mixing with a long-term solution, and there are going to be points at which they converge. So yes, two separate projects, but we're talking about one similar space, okay? So in that, my concern is making sure that they do succeed is the long-term plan for the small tiny houses in the project and those women and children who we still want to be able to provide housing for. Because I think PDC's intention is great, wanting to be helpful and opening up the space. But we also want to make sure that there is going to be a plan and that there's a narrative that all parties involved has in terms of in terms of sharing with us what the long-term plan will be for maintaining the tiny housing project.
Or maybe
that
said
clear?
another way, where are they going to go afterwards?
Well, that's the question, but I also wanted to be very clear in public that we're talking about two separate projects, but one space.
I appreciate your comments and the question behind them.
So we have Ben Murrow from the city, if you want to have him up, because he's really representing that project.
Whoever can answer it, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ben Morrow with the Office of Management and Finance. And to answer that question, we have commitments from our partners with the Joint Office Homeless Services, Catholic Charities, from the Mayor's Office, and from my office, the Office of Management and Finance, which I don't run, but it's the office that I do work in. That 14 women, not children, so just women.
No children,
No
okay,
children.
just women, okay.
That's an easy number to work with. So we will have probably about 90 days before, we'll have a very clear transition plan for each woman in that community. So if we have our cycling women out into permanent housing, and it makes sense for the village population to start tapering off towards the end, we'll stop refilling the village and we'll start identifying whether it's motel vouchers in the meantime moving in towards permanent housing, or just vouchers or whatever we can do. We'll be working with our partners to ensure that the 14 women won't be put back on the street, won't encumber the property, and that will not be an issue for the project coming in afterwards.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think in the briefing there was some mention of 30 days, like maybe that was the expected kind of cycle for folks coming into the tiny houses and going out of the tiny houses. Does that ring a bell? I think that was the anticipated sort of time period, but maybe not.
If we could cycle 14 people out every 30 days, that would be an extreme success. And so we don't have, with this kind of transitional housing, we haven't done this before, and so we don't have an exact 30 days that we'll be cycling through. I think our goal would be in the year to go through at least 14 of people finding permanent housing. And so we're working through those as we kind of have case management system through Catholic Charities and are making sure that everyone who is a part of the community is being connected with those services. And so I don't know about the 30 days, but we would have regular check-ins and kind of identifying where people are in their own personal plans for attaining housing. And then we would have our 90-day, 60-day, 30-day breakdown for leaving the site.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We have Webley Bowles from the Kenton Neighborhood Association. Come on up. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. My name is Webley Bowles. I am the Land Use Chair for the Kenton Neighborhood Association. And we have been in discussion with PDC and about this property and others for a pretty long time, years, as it happens to be. And we've specifically been talking to TPI, HGC, and Holst about the project since last year. Probably saw that we wrote a letter saying that we hope to continue discussing the possibilities for the project. We're definitely intrigued by the possibility of having a permanent location for affordable housing and transition housing in the neighborhood. We believe that there will be neighborhood support. The topic has come up in our neighborhood recently with the pods, or the tiny houses as it's being called now. And we don't know which way that's going to go, but I think the neighborhood is happy to see that permanent housing is going in, and that will continue the development of what we were at one point calling Argyle on the Hill. And I think it becomes a great opportunity for Kenton to support new neighbors that are coming into the neighborhood, as well as for them to support us by coming to meetings, being involved, just being more civically engaged. And we're glad that it expedites the growth of the neighborhood as well. So with the PDC plan, I forget the name of it, that was done a couple of years ago, that property is such a weird site that we didn't think that it would be developed as quickly as it is. And now there's a lot of involvement and people want it, which is great. So we're excited about the possibility of it becoming permanent housing and want to continue conversations with PDC as it moves forward, and TPI, and everybody else that is involved in the project and the site just in general. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Questions? So I guess I have a question. I wasn't quite clear. So is the neighborhood association not taking a position on the tiny house project yet?
We are not taking a position. We're actually having a meeting this evening at 6 p.m. I have the ballots in my bag, so I need to get out of here as soon as possible. Well, I mean, they can't really vote without me. But we're not taking, the board is not taking an opinion, but the neighborhood as a whole is voting on it. It's not really a binding vote, but it's whatever they want to do with it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, you guys.
I just think both these projects are very worthy and innovative, and I'd take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
I think that, I agree, this is very innovative and everybody's done a great job, it seems like. I really wonder, do we have other excess properties, even just for the tiny house projects that are laying fallow, where with a succession plan, for when they're not fallow, that we might be able to offer up other opportunities?
Yeah, we can take a look. We have, I think, looked at our properties with certain lenses of, 12 months, 18 months, 5 years, and so we can come back and talk about that.
Thank you.
Okay, our last item on the agenda is,
I'm sorry, one last thing. What's her name from Kenton Neighborhood? Boss lady.
Webley.
Yes.
Boss lady.
Boss lady, because you said they couldn't vote without you. It would be nice to know what the outcome of, even though it's non-binding, it would be really good information to have in terms of what the general gestalt or feel or essence of the community is regarding the tiny houses. Is there some way that you can communicate back with someone here at PDC?
Justin?
Awesome, thank you.
Okay. Item number 9, information item and update on the fiscal year 2016-17 PDC Community Livability Grant Program Awards. Another interesting subject for the day.
Great.
Allison Wicks.
Yes. Good afternoon, Chair Kelly, Commissioners, Executive Director Branham. My name is Allison Wicks. I am a project coordinator with the Portland Development Commission, and I'm the Community Livability Grant Program Manager. Today, I'm presenting an information item on the PDC Community Livability Grant Program, including some program background and sharing the fiscal year 16-17 grant awards in the Lentz, Gateway, Central East Side, Urban Renewal areas, and the Old Town Chinatown neighborhood. The images that you see here and that you'll see throughout my presentation are of projects that have received community livability grants over the program's 10-year history. The PDC Community Livability Grant Program is an annual competitive grant program. The program supports projects that foster vibrant and healthy neighborhoods and that improve the prosperity of area residents and businesses. It is one of PDC's only programs that's specifically targeted to support the projects of nonprofits and community-based organizations. Grant awards are typically for capital projects and placemaking and open space projects. Projects must be TIF eligible, permanent real property improvements that add, expand, or improve physical space. PDC first offered the Community Livability Grant Program in the Interstate Corridor Urban Renewal area in 2006. Due to the success and popularity of the program over the past 10 years, 4 additional districts have been added. These are the Lentz, Gateway, and Central East Side Urban Renewal areas and the Old Town Chinatown neighborhood. In total, PDC has awarded over $5 million through the program, funding 120 projects and organizations across the city. Over the years, the Community Livability Grant Program has been tailored to meet the Portland Development Commission's overarching goals. In the past 2 years, the CLG program criteria was updated to align with the PDC 2015-2020 strategic plan. Today, priority is given to projects that benefit communities of color or people with low incomes and that promote widely shared prosperity. Such projects support wealth creation opportunities for small business owners, improve access to jobs and workforce development services, honor and enhance the neighborhood's cultural diversity and history, or deliver a community asset tailored to the community's expressed priorities and opportunities. In addition, as districts have added action plans and initiatives, such as the Lentz 5-year action plan, the Gateway 5-year action plan, the Old Town Chinatown 5-year action plan, and the North-Northeast Community Development Initiative, the program criteria for each district has been updated to include the goals of these plans. For fiscal year 16-17, grant applications opened in October for Lentz, Gateway, Central East Side, and Old Town Chinatown. Information about the grant program was translated into 5 different languages. We hosted 4 office hours sessions to provide one-on-one assistance with grant applications, and we convened 4 separate community evaluation committees. The evaluation committees were made up of community members, members of the Neighborhood Economic Development Leadership Group, and 1 PDC staff member. The recommendations from the community evaluation committees were brought to PDC leadership, and then final grant awards were announced in February 2017. The timeline for the interstate corridor urban renewal area is aligned with the rollout of the North-Northeast Community Development Initiative. Applications opened in March and are currently open through the end of April. Members of the Oversight Committee will play a role in the Community Evaluation Committee, and we plan to announce awards in June 2017. In total, we received 17 grant applications and awarded 13 grants totaling $850,000. In the Lentz urban renewal area, 4 grants were awarded totaling $323,000, ranging from $5,000 to Rose Community Development to transform an underutilized community meeting room into a youth music education center, to $195,000 to the Portland Youth Builders to support the expansion of their southeast campus on 92nd Avenue. The project will help them co-locate their computer tech training program with their main campus and to better serve the diverse enrollment of very low-income people who face multiple and serious barriers to academic achievement and career success. The Wisdom of the Elders Wisdom Workforce Initiative also received a grant this year. Rose Highbear, who is the executive director of Wisdom of the Elders, is here today, and you'll hear from her in a little bit about her program. In Gateway urban renewal area, there were 5 awards this year totaling $200,000. $100,000 was awarded to the Portland Adventist Community Services to support the development of a low-income health clinic and the expansion of their food pantry program on Southeast Halsey. The 4 other grants are all placemaking and green infrastructure grants, including street furnishings, a green wall, a community kiosk, and electrical vehicle charging stations. These projects all align with and will implement the Gateway 5-year action plan. In the Central East Side, there are 2 awards this year totaling $150,000. This is only the 2nd year that the CLG program has been offered in the Central East Side, so it's great to see 2 strong projects from the Miracle Theater Group and the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry, and to continue to build the program in the Central East Side. And finally, there are also 2 awards in the Old Town Chinatown neighborhood. Both will advance the priorities of the Old Town Chinatown 5-year action plan. The Portland Chinatown History Foundation will establish a new museum in the neighborhood, turning a vacant storefront into a permanent home for the popular exhibit entitled Beyond the Gate.
A Tale of Portland's Historic Chinatowns. For these projects, PDC is rarely the sole funder. In this round of grants alone, the PDC funds of approximately $850,000 is leveraging over $3.5 million in total project costs. This includes other grants, contributions from the organizations, fundraising, and volunteer hours. In conclusion, one thing that we want to continue to work on and improve upon for the Community Livability Grant Program is how we share the stories and resulting projects of the projects that we partner on. So to get a start on that, we've invited 3 past recipients and 1 current recipient to share about their projects and the impacts that their project has had on the people that they serve. So I can either take any questions or we can invite up our guests.
Any questions, commissioners? Let's invite up some testimony. We have from ERCO, Jeff McDonald and Lee Cha.
Good evening, Chair Kelly and Commissioners and Director Branham.
Welcome.
My name is Lee Cha. I'm the Executive Director of ERCO, and I'm very grateful and honored to have the opportunity to share with you the accomplishment of the success of the ERCO Community Livability Grant. And for us, we're focusing on a culture-specific workforce training and development center. And so this project has completed back, basically at the end of this fiscal year. And so, I just wanted to take the opportunity to really express, our gratitude and appreciations to the work that you do and the fundings that ERCO have received. And with me tonight is our Associate Director, who is the immediate person that kind of oversee the project. And so I wanted to give him the opportunity to really share with you what is all the exciting project and all the things that we have done. And so again, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. And again, my name's Jeff McDonald. I'm Associate Director at ERCO, and thank you all for inviting us today. This was a very exciting project. We had a space that was very underutilized. It had originally been a space to teach construction trade, but we no longer were doing that. It had begun to collect into a vast storage space. It was about 16 feet high, so we came up with an innovative plan to split it in half, move the storage above, and create a very nice training room down below with a focus on the healthcare industry because, as you know, we serve immigrants and refugees who come in with a variety of skills. There's a great need for trained care workers that are bilingual and bicultural. So it's a very good match for our programs that we also offer that are funded through work systems, particularly some of the funding that comes from all of you from the EOP program that comes through the work systems and also through the Healthcare Northwest grant that is a big piece of the work that Work Systems is doing currently. So quickly, we took this space and we spent, it's about a 500 square foot space, and we also did some other improvements in our intake rooms and some other parts of the facility, but the main focus was on this. The project came in under budget. You very kindly gave us a $68,000 grant, and about 54% of the costs for the program were paid to a state-certified ESB contractor, actually an African contractor from one of our refugee or immigrant contractors locally. We provided another about $54,000 in cash match ourselves to support the project. So as you can see a little bit in the pictures here, it's a very multicultural classroom. And we have people that come in from all over the world. Since September, we've run 3 of these classes, serving about 18 refugees. And of them, about, I think, 17 have completed coursework. And let me see what my numbers are here. 6 have enrolled in certified nursing assistant training, which is a great career path for moving into the healthcare industry. And the other remaining 11 have obtained jobs as caregivers locally. So there's a great demand, particularly in assisted living, for this. So it's really great project so far, and we also use the room. It's not just for healthcare classes. We use it for other classroom needs as well as career mapping workshops. So very familiar kinds of activities that we do, but this space really opened up a lot of use for our clients. It says hospital beds, medical dummies, which are very frightening for a lot of people to see, and lots of medical instruments as well for the training. Looking forward, we just got new funding from Work Systems from the Healthcare Northwest grant that will, we're starting up an immigrant nurse credentialing project, which will directly work with immigrant nurses who come into the country but are not credentialed here, and will help them retrain to meet healthcare standards in the U.S. and pass the credentialing exams that they need to take up jobs here. So this is a huge need in our refugee community, that we have a lot of people who come in here with very high skills, but they have a hard time getting back into the professions at which they were in the past. You can see this with some of our Syrian and our Iraqi refugees particularly currently. So our first group of nurses will go through late this year, a cohort of 12. So thank you again. If there's any questions?
Any questions, commissioners?
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, just real quick. Do you have any plans for, because there's a large contingent of refugees who come who were dentists, who were also veterinarians. So do you have plans to also maybe expand that fast-tracking credentialing process? I know to start nursing is great, but there's a large number of...
Yes, we're certainly aware of that. I know we've been working, well, Lee can probably tell you a little bit more about some of the work he's doing in that area too.
We're actually looking into it very seriously, particularly those who were certified overseas. And we even go above and beyond to really get our own local legislator and also our national congressional leadership to take some actions on that, because the process of getting them to recertified is really tough.
Yeah, I know.
And so, what we do is really looking at the area where we could do in terms of quickly prep them to re-enter the workforce again and their professions again. But the whole recertification, it's far more complicated than you and I ever think. And so, we need to either go further.
I have a small clue.
Yes. But love your thinking there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We actually have a dentist who worked for us who's gone back to school. He just came back to reapply for a job because it's such a long time to get through all his work to get into the dental school. So,
well, thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I'd just like to comment that I don't think there's been a time in our history where it's been as important as it is now to support our refugee and immigrant community. Thank you for what you're doing. Next, we have Rose Heiber from the Wisdom of the Elders Incorporated. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much. So my name is Rose Heiber, and thank you for inviting me to be here today with you. I'm an Alaska Native. I'm Deghetan Dene, or we call ourselves also the Caribou people, or Alaskan Athabascans. We have a few names. So I was born in a small village up in Alaska on the Kuskokwim River, and my grandmother was born on the Yukon River in the village of Anvik. And they recently did an archaeological dig there and found out that we've been there for 14,500 years. And so, very deeply connected with the earth, I guess you could say. I've been really involved in a lot of climate issues up in Alaska and been producing documentaries about our people's perspective about climate issues. So I guess because of my love of the land, we have become very involved in environmental. As you know, or as you may not know, Native Americans are America's first environmentalists. And so we have noticed the research has kind of documented that there are not very many Native Americans working in environmental fields. There's been some really good research put out over the last few years about that. And so we made a decision that we wanted to train Native youth in environmental habitat restoration work, make it fun experience to engage them in maybe careers in a STEM field or something of that nature. And so that's been going very well. We're in our 5th year of that, and we extended that several years ago to include Native adults. And so not sure if you're aware of the statistics in our community, but Native Americans, we have triple the poverty rate of dominant society. And so we have a lot of issues in our communities. We have generations of historical trauma, which we regard as the leading root cause of a lot of mental health addictions issues that our community faces. And we recognize, first of all, that our people are really regenerating, recovering, and we see so many success stories of our people, our Native American people, becoming strong again, you know, galvanized and contributing to society. We had 100 or more years, depending on what part of the country we're in, where, you know, we were sliding, and so the last few generations of our people, we've been turning that around. And here in Portland, despite the fact that we're triple the poverty rate, we have a lot of issues with our children being in foster care, so many more than the rest of the other ethnic groups. We still see so much brightness, such a bright future for our Native people. So we formed Wisdom Workforce for that purpose. We wanted to reconnect our people to the environment, the local environment. We're very blessed in Portland. As you may know, we have more parks and natural areas than any other city in America of our size. And so Metro came to us a couple of years ago and asked us if we would be willing to start a program of working on Metro land. And so we formed Wisdom Workforce LLC as well as Wisdom Workforce, which you are funding. And so we have been for the last several years learning as much as we can about environmental assessment and habitat restoration work, and then training our own community using Western science, as you can say, and integrating it with traditional knowledge. So our people, our elders, have traditional ecological knowledge. We have our own connection with the earth. We have knowledge of the herbs, the plant medicines, ethnobotanicals, I guess you could say. And so we have been training for the last 2 sessions, thanks to funding from you, from Metro, and from other organizations. We have trained 2 different teams of Native adults in environmental work. And so we had a wonderful year, very hard year, but we had a wonderful year, taught it in the spring and in the fall, and we're now just going into our 2nd year of training 2 more cohorts. And so one of the things that we came to Portland Development Commission and asked was, we would like to have an opportunity for our people to learn environmental assessment, and could that be a fundable training? And so we were granted that, for which we're very grateful. We have an opportunity to do environmental assessment, I guess you could say environmental monitoring of the Foster floodplain natural area. And so it's kind of like, you probably know this, but it's one of the leading floodplain projects in the country. And so we wanted our people to be able to go out and document from season to season how the recovery was going. And so we were granted permission to be able to do that this year, and we're looking forward to that. And another thing that was important to us, that we'd be able to work with some of our people that went through the training and turn them into crew leaders. So we established 2 people later last year as assistant crew leaders. And this year we're turning them into crew leaders, and we're trying to work with those people who have strong skills, good communication skills, and other workforce readiness skills, work ethic, and that sort of thing. And we're turning them into crew leaders using our service learning activities. So we've been evolving regularly. We're very excited. We love our team. We have very good, I guess you could say, camaraderie among the team. And we always are very strong in the area of spirituality. as our people, you know, our medicine wheel of our people, we're mind, body, spirit, and emotions. And so our spirituality is very important to us, and it is a part of our working on the earth when we do, you know, work in these natural areas. So I just want to say that this has been such a pleasure for me to be able to develop this project. And to be honest with you, we would not have been able to do it without you this last year. We had some funding from Metro, which we're really grateful for. We had funding from East Multnomah Soil and Water Conservation District, but it wasn't enough to really do it. And so we were able to pay our interns a stipend this year because of you. So these are people who, they don't always have a vehicle. They don't always have bus money. And so you're talking about people that really struggle, and we were able to give them, you know, this stipend for which made it possible for them to come to work and begin to learn. I noticed that they had a very high level of interest in everything we were doing when we were in the classroom and then when we would go out and work. And I have to tell you, sometimes it's rugged out there. We were just in January in the Columbia Gorge. The ground was frozen. We were trying to pull ivy. These people are getting very hardened. But it's been quite an experience working with the, you know, the world of nature. And so I would just like to take a break there and see if anybody has any questions, because I could go on and on, but I'd really like to see if any of you have something you'd like to ask us or share.
It's great to hear your story.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. We've got one more person to testify, so
Okay.
we'll move along.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. We have Susie Jeffries from the North by Northeast Community Health Center. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation to be here. I'm Susie Jeffries. I'm the Executive Director of North by Northeast Community Health Center. North by Northeast is the only medical clinic in Oregon that's focused on African American health. We opened our doors in August of 2006, so we actually celebrated 10 years last year. We've grown considerably since then. We serve as a primary care home for about 650 adults, about 60% of whom are African American, most of whom have Oregon Health Plan, and some of whom are uninsured. In addition to primary care services, we run a host of health promotion and health education activities like diabetes classes, trainings for community health workers, and Cuts and Checks, which is our barbershop blood pressure program, of which Champions Barbershop, Jamal and Christina, who were here earlier, were one of our original partners in that program. So a few years ago, we knew we were coming up on a few challenges related to our current space, which was in the Garlington Center on MLK just south of Fremont. Our lease was expiring. We had outgrown the space, and as you probably know, Cascadia was planning a major redevelopment of that property. So the very first thing we did in looking for a new space was ask our patients where we should consider moving to. We asked about Gateway and Cully and Kenton. We asked, should we move out farther east? And we heard resoundingly from our patients, please stay here in inner northeast Portland. Even our patients who themselves had moved out further east, that was the response. What they said to us was, like, I come back to this neighborhood perhaps for church, to see family, for school. I want my clinic to be one of the reasons I come back to this neighborhood. And so we began looking and discovered quickly that it would not necessarily be easily affordable to find an appropriate space for us in North and Northeast. Thankfully, we connected through relationship with the Arthur family, who was looking for a new life for their building at Northeast 7th in Alberta. The building seemed perfect, lots of space, off-street parking, accessible to several bus lines, available for a long-term lease, and of course, most importantly, right there in the neighborhood, just about a mile north of where we were. The space needed a lot of work, and so we applied to PDC. We were awarded a very generous community livability grant That funding accounted for about 75% of our entire project cost. We fundraised an additional $110,000 to complete the project, which involved a total remodel of one floor and significant improvements to the second floor of the building. With that new space, we now have space for an on-site lab, including blood draws. We have a dedicated office that patients can use to watch health videos or to get on a computer and enroll in Oregon Health Plan. We have office space for each of our staff members and room to grow. And we also have a large multi-use space that we're using for meetings and trainings and classes. So not only does that mean better services for our current patients, it's really allowed us to see more patients and expand in a way that we were not able to in our previous home. I really cannot overstate how grateful we are to PDC for that funding. As has already been mentioned, we could not have done this, and on the timeline we did it on, which was fairly short, without PDC. Definitely appreciative for the funding and for what I think that says about PDC's support for our organization and the community we serve, and also just appreciative to the staff members that we worked with at PDC to navigate the process, and Director Branham for being at our ribbon cutting and sharing remarks as well. So thank you so much, and thanks for the opportunity to share today.
Thank you. Any questions? I was at the ribbon cutting too, and that is a really great project that I think PDC can be very proud of. It's the Scott and the Asbury family that go way back in northeast Portland, and the fact that we were able to keep that property in their ownership or help keep that is a very important thing in my view. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Unless we have any further business, we are adjourned. Please note, 4 minutes before 5 o'clock.